Hi, everybody. I'm Craig O'Rourke, and welcome back to Retire Wealthy. I'm your host. This channel is all about helping you to create true financial freedom. If you like this program, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Today, I'm really pleased to have Adrian Scurtu here with us. He's with Manning Silverman. He's an amazing CPA. And Adrian and I met many years ago on the speaker circuit. I've just marveled at listening to him speak. I asked him to be on the show. I'm so glad to have him here. So Adrian, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here. We're going to go over a couple of topics today, but I just want to start out, Adrian, in general, asking you from a perspective of a CPA, how do people utilize real estate investing to create wealth?
Sure, Craig. Well, thank you, first of all, so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. It's always a pleasure talking with you about something we both really enjoy, real estate, and even taxes. I mean, no one loves taxes, but we all love talking about how to lower our taxes, right?
Right.
So these are definitely something that I'm passionate about because really my entire family, even though I'm a CPA, is in real estate. So growing up, I've grown up around real estate and really kind of focused my practice on real estate. So very good question. You hear and I hear and everyone hears that, use real estate to become wealthy. But what does that really mean? That's a very nice thing to say theoretically, but what does that mean? So obviously we know that real estate appreciates, especially the last 2 years. Um, the Chicago market, the California market, and Florida and a lot of other places, they're just shooting up. So how does a real estate investor really use that to his or her advantage? Well, with real estate, the IRS is really giving a lot of incentives to invest in real estate. Some of those we'll talk about: a 1031 exchange, a cost segregation study, depreciation. So really think about this. You purchase a income producing real estate property, a rental property that you get a tenant in there, and the rent that is paying is covering the mortgage. That property is now appreciating. So that is one way that you're growing wealth. But at the other side, there's a lot of tax advantages also. What if I was to tell you that you could have a rental property that is growing in revenue, it's appraising, it's growing in value, and you're also able to have a tax loss by some of these tax strategies we're able to implement. So now you have a property or an asset that's appraising, that's growing in value. You have a tenant that, hopefully is paying off all of the expenses. And then you have your yearly tax advantages that you're sometimes able to use those tax deductions to offset income from W-2 or income from all sources if you qualify to be a real estate professional. And then put all of that together with the 1031 exchange, which means that what the 1031 exchange essentially is that you could sell a rental property and buy another one. If it's the same value, you're not paying income tax on the sale of the first property. So let's kind of wrap our minds about that, around all of that. We're able to get a rental property. It should pay for itself. It should grow in value. You should have tax advantages. And if you want to sell and buy another one, if done properly, you're not paying any income tax on the sale, meaning you have a lot more funds to purchase another rental property. And you keep doing that, you keep repeating, or you just multiply this and have a number of rental properties. So really, at the core of it, at the foundation, this is what we mean when we talk about using real estate to grow your wealth.
I agree with you. And you brought up 1031s a minute ago, and I think the 1031 tax advantage is one of the best wealth building tools that real estate investors have that nobody else gets to have. I don't know why the IRS likes us so much, but I'm glad that they do. Can you expand a little bit on the 1031 exchange for people who may not be familiar with it?
Definitely. So what the 1031 exchange, the 1031 just from the IRS tax section where it comes from. So essentially you have a rental property. When you sell that rental property, what happens is you pay capital gains tax on any gain that you have, and any depreciation that you've deducted, you have to pay back depreciation recapture. But what a 1031 exchange does is it lets you sell the first property that you own or the property that you own. And if 100% of the proceeds go into buying another rental property, there is no income tax due on the sale of the first property. So that tax does not magically disappear. That would be very nice, right? But it doesn't disappear. Essentially, what happens is it moves from property one to property two. So now property two has that income tax liability from property one tacked onto it. So your basis from property one is now your basis of property two. So this, there are also a lot of things to be careful of. It needs to be done properly. When you sell the first property, we always recommend, and it's also a requirement, to get a 1031 exchange intermediary. And why that is important, because to do a 1031 exchange properly, you can't just sell the first property, take the proceeds, and 5 months later buy another property. The 1031 exchange intermediary needs to facilitate the sale. The proceeds go to the 1031 exchange intermediary, who then use those proceeds to purchase the second property. You also have 45 days from the sale of property one to identify a new property, and then 180 days from the sale to exchange the property. So all in all, it's very good strategy, but a lot to consider.
Let me ask you this. So how do the various tax codes help real estate investors in today's market?
I think it's really number one, like I mentioned, the 1031 exchange. What other, industry or where else can you sell an asset and not pay income tax? There's a friend of mine, I'm thinking just off the top of my head, who liked to collect sneakers, Nikes and all of those other expensive sneakers, and buy, maybe $50,000 worth of these gym shoes, sell them, and then buy other ones, and then keep on repeating. Every time you would sell that asset or that gym shoe, you'd have to pay tax. But with a rental property, if doing the 1031 exchange properly, you're essentially buying a property, selling it, paying absolutely no income tax, and being able to buy a second rental property. Now, eventually, when you stop doing the 1031 exchange and no longer, just sell a property and keep the cash, you have all of that income tax to pay at that time. So number one, the 1031 exchange. Number two, I think the cost segregation, and if you don't mind, I want to jump into the cost segregation a little bit.
Sure.
So really what a cost segregation study is another great advantage that only real estate professionals have. So you buy a rental property, let's say it's worth $1 million. Normal depreciation. So when you hear the word depreciation, that just means you're deducting the property. It's a fancy word for, or not a fancy word, but it's the technical term for writing off the property. So it would be nice to buy $1 million income producing property, $1 million rental property, and take $1 million deduction when you buy it. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. You write it off or depreciate that property over 27 and a half years or over 39 years. So every year you get 1/27th of a deduction or 1/39th. A cost segregation study is a team of engineers come in and look at your property, and they do a study and break the components apart. And they say, okay, you have this rental property. Maybe it's a great condo by the beach. Maybe it's a great, single family home on the beach. Maybe it's a multi-unit. And they say, if you leave it alone after 27 and a half years or 39 years, there's no way that it would be in the same shape. It would deteriorate. It would break down. So really, they look at the components of the property and break it apart. And they say the roof has a life of maybe 15 years or 7 years. They look at the walls, the AC units. They get very detailed. They look at the fixtures in the house, the toilets, literally the faucets, molding, all of that, and they assign a different life to everything. And why that's beneficial? Because the life that's assigned, that is how many years you could depreciate that item over. So really, very, very big picture view, not to get super detailed, but very big picture view. When you do a cost segregation study, anywhere from, let's say, 10 to 30% on the aggressive side of the purchase price that gets allocated to the building, not to the land, you're able to deduct year one. So now let's think about that again. Let's say we have a property that we buy and the building's value is worth $1 million. You do a cost segregation study, and let's say it's 20% you could deduct. The year that you buy that property, 20% or $200,000, you get a direct write-off in that year. So if you're a real estate professional and you're also a real estate agent and you're earning income from that, or you have other rental properties, this loss that we've now created doing the cost segregation study, we're able to use and offset our income from other sources. So again, it's one of those strategies that you're not paying $200,000 more out of pocket to get a deduction. It's an engineering study and a tax strategy that we're able to implement to get a lot more tax deductions from that rental property. So again, this is available to real estate professionals. I can't have a mechanic shop and be able to depreciate cars in this way, or have a manufacturing company and be able to implement this strategy on the things that I manufacture. This is something available only to real estate. So again, very great way of getting these income producing properties or these rental properties, implementing these strategies and being able to really create a lot of these tax losses.
No, it's fantastic, and I've always been amazed at how many advantages that the IRS offers real estate investors over everybody else. It just we seem to be favored for some reason, so that's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Adrian. I really appreciate your time. We're going to have you back soon, I'm sure. And anybody, if you want to get in contact with Adrian, there's a QR code. Just go ahead and scan that, and we'll put you guys in touch. And if you like the show, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time on Retire Wealthy. Thank you.